This week on Lewis on the Law, I've got yet another great show for you. We're going to talk about the Lawyers for Equal Justice program, a program that helps both attorneys and people seeking equal access to justice. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. Get ready for an informative show.
Welcome to Lewis on the Law.
You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I will be your host for the next 48 minutes. And you know what? Here at Lewis on the Law, we are on a mission to empower you, the listener. That's right, empower you with legal information. And in our efforts to empower you, I've got a great show going for you today. We're going to talk about the Lawyers for Equal Justice program. And this is a program that helps both attorneys and people seeking equal access to justice. I am so honored to have attorney Sarah Babcock on with me. She is the executive director of the Lawyers for Equal Justice program. Hi, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hi, James. It's really nice to be here.
I know. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks.
Okay. So, Sarah, why don't you tell me a little bit about the program?
Sure. So Lawyers for Equal Justice has been in existence since about 2015. We have had attorneys participating in the program since April of 2016. And Lawyers for Equal Justice is often termed an incubator for newer solo attorneys who need help getting their practices off the ground, understanding how to run their law firm like a business, understanding the mechanics of practicing law, which law school unfortunately doesn't teach you. It teaches you how to think like a lawyer, but not necessarily how to practice law. And to do that in a way that serves people who typically are not able to afford the market rates that most attorneys charge and don't qualify for legal aid because they make, quote unquote, too much money.
Wow. Okay. That's a really important area. I think last week I was talking with a couple of members of Atlanta Legal Aid, Sarah Kelsey and Sarah Mancini, and we were talking about people who might just fall over the bucket, their bucket, and how sometimes they're just stuck.
Yeah, and think you're making $50,000, $60,000 supporting a family of 4 on that, which is a very average income for folks. But you don't have room in your budget to spend $250 an hour for an attorney, especially if they can't tell you how many hours the matter is going to take. And so we really try to encourage the attorneys in our program to think about ways to serve folks, to tell them, I'm going to do this one thing for you. This is the set price, and not have all of the unpredictability that comes with the way that legal services are typically delivered.
Okay. So what kind of value does this add for attorneys then?
For attorneys, there's so many solo attorneys, they leave law school or they decide to leave the firm that they're at and set up their own shop, hang their own shingle. And it can be really overwhelming to think about all the things you need to do, and you're potentially all by yourself. And so the program is a place where you've got 20 other attorneys doing the exact same thing as you in the workspace with you, able to, give you a shoulder to cry on. And support, and also... And
sometimes there's a lot of crying.
Sometimes there is. There's a lot of victories, too. But, yeah, give that moral support and also say, I had a problem like that with this client, and here's how I tackled it, or here's what I'm doing in terms of my accounting, here's the CPA I recommend, just all of those kinds of things. And then within the program, too, we have a lot of meetings and trainings that talk about, here's how you need to reconcile your trust accounting, which is one of the number one ways that attorneys get in trouble with the bar. Or, here are some key performance indicators that you should be thinking about with your law firm. Let's think about what other industries do in terms of marketing and process and systems. Let's bring that into the legal sphere so that you can run your practice a lot more like a business and be more successful and more profitable.
Okay, so this is like one solution to two problems. So how does this provide equal access to justice for people who might fall over the line?
Right. So we really encourage attorneys in the program to be thinking about delivering legal services in a different way. And so that means flat fees, which you often don't see in the legal world, right? In other areas of our lives, we expect the plumber to say, well, I think it's going to cost X, and that whatever X is, the final cost is not that much off of it. That usually doesn't happen with legal services because lawyers will say, well, I'm going to help you with this litigation, and who knows what's going to happen. It could, it could be $10,000 and it could be $20,000. And that sort of uncertainty and that type of financial sort of burden is just not doable for so many folks. But there are ways to carve up a legal matter. It's called doing limited scope representation or unbundling, where the attorney represents somebody just as to a piece of it. So they say, you're getting divorced, you can't afford the $15,000 that it might cost to take this from.
And divorces are expensive.
They are expensive. They can be quite expensive, especially if you have kids and property. So, maybe it's going to be $15,000 to do it from the very beginning to the very end, but I can help you just prepare the divorce pleading, make sure that the child support worksheet and the parenting plan and all those other things are filled out correctly, and, tell you how to file it and tell you what to expect at the initial hearing and what sort of arguments the judge is going to want to hear and the things the judge isn't going to want to hear about. I can do all of that. And, we have attorneys who can do things like that for maybe $1,000. And so that becomes much more palatable and is huge value to clients who maybe never going to be able to do the $15,000, but let's at least get them something and some type of legal help.
Okay, that's pretty important. So what exactly is the program?
So Lawyers for Equal Justice itself is an 18-month program, sort of thought of, if you think of like a tech incubator, right? It's like an incubator for newer solo attorneys. 18 months that attorneys get office space and everything that goes along with that, internet, printing, we have a coffee machine, those types of things.
The important things in life, the coffee machine.
And then, so you have a desk and sort of a shared workspace, conference rooms if you're meeting with clients. We have an online referral system. So if you practice in areas that are very high need, it's possible that you'd even be getting referrals for paying clients coming in, and training opportunities. We have a 2-week boot camp at the very beginning that's like, here's everything you need, let's get up and running. And then regular check-ins with me, the director, and, obviously all of the folks in the program itself who are there to sort of give advice and help. And so the participants pay a fee for being in the program for over those 18 months. It is significantly less than you would, be paying if you were looking for office space and getting all of those other things.
Yeah, definitely cheaper than just regular office space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Yeah, so do they have to pay the fee initially right up front?
So we have some different payment plans available, recognizing that a lot of folks who come into the program have just graduated from law school, and this is sort of their first job out of law school, and to be starting up your own law firm takes some capital. So we definitely have payment plans that are graduated, sort of recognizing that it's going to take you a little bit of time to kind of get clients coming in and referrals and all of that. So you can start out paying something as low as $50 a month.
Wow, that is really great for office space. And what are the type of amenities you offer attorneys?
So there's the office space and the internet, and then we have trainings. We have subscriptions to an online provider of legal training, so you can go and watch as many videos as you want, and it's really high quality stuff that attorneys at big law firms or their law firms are paying thousands of dollars for, and we're able to get it for free because Lawyers for Equal Justice itself is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3.
Okay, so let's talk just a little bit about how this program came to be.
Sure. So it was actually in some ways the nationwide incubator movement, and there are incubator programs like Lawyers for Equal Justice in almost every state. There's over 70 of them across the country.
So some states have 2?
California actually has like 5 or 6,
okay.
and some have none, unfortunately.
Okay.
So
California's taking it all up.
Right, as always, it all starts in California and then just like
comes over here,
moves east.
Mm-hmm.
So part of a nationwide movement that really, I think, got its steam when the recession hit. Which is not to say that attorneys in these programs are attorneys who otherwise couldn't get jobs, because that's absolutely not the case. But that was when, folks at law schools and, in legal aid organizations and state bars started saying, hey, we have all of these attorneys who are going out into solo practice because firms aren't hiring. And we have all of these folks, it's estimated to be 80% of the population with a civil legal need is unable to get legal help. Let's find a way to marry these two so that we've got all these attorneys who are looking for opportunities and training and work and, developing practices, and all of these folks who need help. Let's put them together and find some ways for that to be a mutually beneficial situation. So, then Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court.
Wait a minute. Before we get into that,
right.
I think we're getting close to the end of this segment.
Okay.
We'll get into that when we get back. But why don't you give them some contact information for Lawyers for Equal Justice?
Yes. So our website is www.lawyersequaljustice.org. So that's where you can find information about the program. And you can also click to go over to our referral site. That is where if you are looking for legal assistance, affordable legal assistance, you can submit a request to be connected with one of the attorneys in the program. And you can either get there through our website or you can go directly to lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io.
Thanks, Sarah. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. If you have a serious legal issue, don't listen to this show to handle it. This show is for informational purposes only. If you have a serious legal problem, you need to hire an attorney, get the legal advice straight from an attorney. You can always contact me on my website, jameslewislegal.com. You can hit me on my contact page. You can email me at james@jameslewislegal. You can give me a call at 404-610-0075. If I can't help you with your legal issue, I can direct you towards an attorney who can help you with your legal issue. Once again, you're listening to Lewis on the Law. When we get back, we're going to talk more about Lawyers for Equal Justice, how it came to be, and how it may help attorneys. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I am your host this week and every week with Lewis on the Law. And this show is designed to be your first step in a legal process. It helps you find out what type of issues you need to preserve, what type of things you're looking for in an attorney, who might be able to help you, where to go with your legal questions. I have an awesome show coming to you guys today, because this show not only helps out clients or people who are looking for legal representation, but it also helps out attorneys. And I know a lot of listeners to this show are attorneys because I talk to you guys all the time. So I have attorney Sarah Babcock. She is the executive director of the Lawyers for Equal Justice program, and we're talking about the Lawyers for Equal Justice program, and it is an awesome program. I have been a member of it.
Yes.
So we're talking about the formation of this program, okay? And you were saying one of the chief justices had a part in this?
Yeah, so Lawyers for Equal Justice actually has at least for attorneys, I think, sort of a storied history, which is that...
A storied history,
well,
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such an attorney term.
Right. So back in maybe 2013 or 2014, as the sort of nationwide incubator movement was gaining steam, then Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court, Carol Hunstein, learned about it and thought, Georgia really needs a program like this. And so she, because she was the then Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court, was able to get all 5 deans of the Georgia law schools into a room to say, I think you all should collaborate and do this. And they did. And so in 2015, board was put together, representatives of the law schools, and with the State Bar of Georgia, obviously the Georgia Supreme Court support, and the 5 Georgia law schools, the organization was born.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. All 5 law schools kind of got on the same page.
Yeah, right? Which,
Seems like that would be difficult.
You would think so, but I think they all recognize that this was a good opportunity for their graduates and a great way to also really be serving some access to justice needs in the community.
Okay, so Sarah, I have to ask you, how did you become involved with Lawyers for Equal Justice? What prompted you to become involved with this program?
So I was working at a big law firm after graduating from law school and had been there for about 6 years, had done a ton of pro bono work when I was there and really enjoyed it. And not only had done a lot of pro bono work, but had really done a lot of work helping attorneys do their own pro bono matters, and found that I got the most reward out of that, out of helping them work with the clients, and they would call me and say, oh my God, I got a response to my demand letter to the landlord. What do I do? And I'd say, okay, let's talk about it. And let's, you need to call, and kind of coach them through all that. And I really enjoyed it. And so in early 2016, I saw a job opening for the pro bono director at Lawyers for Equal Justice. And so I applied and got it, and the rest was history.
Nice. Okay, so now we touched a little bit about how it helps attorneys. Why don't we go into more detail on that?
Sure. So, law school does a lot of great things. We've both been to law school.
Yeah. I think every attorney, well, I guess there was a period in time where attorneys didn't have to go to law school.
Right, you just apprenticed with somebody.
Is that correct? Yeah, okay.
Certainly has not been that way for a long time.
Yeah, it hasn't been that way since,
Yeah, so you've got to go through 3 years of that, and it is intense, and there's a lot to pack in, but it is mainly focused on teaching you to think like a lawyer, right? I mean, that is the main purpose of law school. And so I don't, fault law schools for not including some of the things that I'm about to say you don't learn. But so you graduate from law school and you don't really know how to practice law. Like, I still remember when I needed to send something out and needed to serve it formally on somebody, and the secretary said, "Did you do the certificate of service? Where's that so I can mail this?" And I was like, "Certificate of what?" So there's those sort of practical things that, it's like what to send to whom, where, and when. You don't learn that stuff in law school. Even if you do experiential things and practicums and internships, you still don't learn that. And so there's that element of going out and practicing law. And Lawyers for Equal Justice provides training and assistance around those sorts of things. And so, people can come into my office and say, "I just got a Rule 6.4 letter from opposing counsel and I don't know what to do with it." And that's a letter you get when somebody thinks that your discovery responses are inadequate. Say, "Okay, let's talk about it," right? Those sorts of things that you're just not going to learn in law school. Law school also doesn't teach you about the business of law and what it means to, look at a profit and loss statement and how to understand your accounts receivable and all of those sort of technical business things, accounting and how to reconcile your trust account and your operating account. And that's stuff that we offer training and resources on as well to really help attorneys run their practices like businesses.
I think the business of the law firm is turning out. I mean, not that the practice of law isn't tough, but the business of running your law firm, getting yourself up and running, finding clients, bringing in income, making sure you're paying all
right.
That for me has been the most challenging part.
And everybody goes to law school because they don't want to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you find, okay, I'm going to be a solo practitioner. I'm going to have a small firm. And that's very rewarding in many ways. And that's what I want. But there's all this other stuff that I need to do. And I think a lot of attorneys, even attorneys who've had their own firms for a very long time, don't focus on that as much as they should. So
yeah, it's a little bit of a curveball. It's something you don't think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so what other type of best policies do you guys work with?
So we talk a lot about client-centered representation and ethics and professionalism because, again, this is a place where if you've just graduated from law school and you go to a big law firm, it's going to be, you're not going to mess up in a conversation with a client because you're not going to talk to a client for 3 to 5 years. And you're going to have lots of time to see the partners doing that and kind of have some cover. If you're running your own firm, it's you from the get-go. And so there can be lots of pitfalls for the unwary. So we talk a lot about ethics and professionalism in the context of client-centered representation. One of the main reasons that attorneys get in trouble with the bar.
Wait a minute. So client-centered representation, what are you saying by that?
Well,
isn't it all client-centered representation?
So you would think that that's a given, right? But one of the main reasons attorneys get in trouble with the bar is because they don't return their clients' phone calls. And so, that's not a very client-centered approach. And there's lots of reasons why attorneys get busy, or it's a client that you really don't want to talk to, or you don't have anything to report. All those reasons you don't call back. But it's not client-centered representation to not call back. And it also leads to bar complaints really quickly. So we talk a lot about, what are strategies for dealing with that, even when you're really busy, so that your clients feel like, oh my God, my lawyer is amazing. And I want to recommend them to all of my friends.
Okay, that's a little bit of an idea of that. So, what are the types of things do you offer attorneys then?
So access to training, like we talked about, and they can get some complimentary training through ICLE of Georgia as well, which is a big advantage. Incubators nationwide and including us are able to get discounts on a lot of practice management software and other technology. It's kind of similar to the way LexisNexis and Westlaw approach law school, where it's like, we'll give it to you free, we'll get you hooked, and then you'll leave and you'll pay.
Yeah. LexisNexis. I pay for my own LexisNexis account, and that's expensive.
Yeah. So, we need to get that sorted out because you get it for free for 12 months through the program.
Yeah, I thought that, but then I tried to cancel my program, and they're just like, for your first year, you cannot cancel LexisNexis.
No.
You're locked in. So no matter what, I'd already started paying long before. So
yeah. So that's another thing we offer is you get 12 months free of LexisNexis.
And that's a huge. That's
huge.
Expensive.
Yeah. So various discounts like that, and there's also sort of a network of folks who say, oh, I'm using this accountant who gave me a discount, and you have a great network of people to sort of point you towards resources.
Now, are there any mentorship programs or any mentorship involved with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have mentors coming in, practicing attorneys, who will come in and talk to folks about their practice area, and it can be just a couple people who come and get some really specific and individualized advice on what they're looking at, or we have folks who will come in and talk about how they use technology in their practice and best practices for that and paperless practice, those sorts of things.
Okay. So are there any other topics here that we've missed about helping attorneys start their own business?
I don't think so. I mean, I would say that I think the number one thing for people in the program is just having other folks around who know what they're doing. You're not just sitting in your basement by yourself trying to run your law practice all on your own.
Are you looking at me because I have a basement office? I have an office in my basement. I think she looked directly at me when
I didn't even know you had a basement office.
Okay, I think you did. But anyways, you're listening to Lewis on the Law. We're up against another break. Sarah, why don't you give them some contact information for Lawyers for Equal Justice?
Sure. So you can go to our website, which is www.lawyersforequaljustice.org. It's FOR, not the number 4. And you can also go straight to our referral site if you're looking for some affordable legal assistance. That's lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io.
You're listening to Lewis on the Law. This program is designed to bring you legal information. If you have a serious legal issue, go ahead and seek the advice of an attorney. You can always contact me at jameslewislegal.com, or you can email me at james@jameslewislegal, or you can give me a call at 404-610-0075. If you have a topic you want to hear on this show, and I've gotten several emails already, and I'll get around to you guys. It kind of takes me about a month to actually get into it. But if you have a topic, go ahead and send me a line on my webpage or email me, and I will bring in an attorney who actually knows something about your topic, and we'll talk about it on air. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. When we get back, we're going to talk about how this program, Lawyers for Equal Justice, provides access to clients. You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I am your host this week and every week, and I am here to empower you, the listener, with legal information. This show is designed to be your first step in a legal process. If you have a legal problem and you don't know where to go or what to do, this show is designed to give you some basic information, tell you what type of issues you need to preserve, what you're looking for in an attorney, what type of things you need to go ahead to move forward with your legal process. If you have a serious legal issue, you need to go ahead and contract with an attorney. Don't rely on the topics you hear on this show or the information you hear on this show to help you with your legal problem. It's just meant to guide you in a specific direction. I have an awesome show because this show not only helps attorneys, it also helps clients. Or people looking for access to justice. I have attorney Sarah Babcock, the executive director of the Lawyers for Equal Justice program, and we're talking about the Lawyers for Equal Justice program. So, Sarah, how does this program, we've talked a little bit about how it helps attorneys. How does this help people looking for access to justice?
Right. So, and if I can just talk a little bit about kind of the access to justice concept. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Folks have some background for it. So several years ago, the American Bar Association did a study and discovered that it's estimated that 80% of Americans with a civil legal need are unable to get legal help with that need. So what does that mean?
I'm surprised the number's not higher than that.
I mean, you would think it could be, right? So this means that for folks whose parent dies without a will and they've got to go through the probate process, somebody who is renting a house and having trouble with their landlord, someone who is going through a divorce or needs to get a child support order modified or has a custody concern. 80% of people facing those issues in this country are unable to get legal assistance. And that number holds true in Georgia as well. There have been some studies, and the estimate is approximately the same in Georgia. So, and why is that? It's because organizations like Atlanta Legal Aid and Georgia Legal Services have limited resources, and they focus those resources in certain areas, and they can't help people who are, above a certain percentage of the federal poverty limit, which means that, like we were talking about before, the family of 4 that's making $50,000 or $60,000 a year is not going to qualify for help from legal aid, which would be free. But then to turn around and afford the $250 an hour an attorney is not going to happen either. And so they fall into this, it's called an access to justice gap. I think gap is a woefully inadequate word for something that affects 80% of the country. I tried using chasm, but that has not caught on.
Yeah.
So now I just say access to justice crisis.
Yeah,
So-
and it's interesting because at $60,000, I mean, especially for a family, I mean, that's really not going to go very far. And then you're going to have this huge gap where, I mean, me and my wife, we probably make more than that, and we don't have
Yeah.
any kids, and I still don't feel like I'm rich.
Right, absolutely. And then, if you think about it sort of in an economic perspective, let's say that somebody's parent has passed away and there's some money in the estate. So that's something that would really benefit the family economically, but they're going to have to go through an arduous process that's going to be, because we don't exactly make it easy on people who don't understand the law to navigate these things. It's going to be a really tough, difficult process to get to any of those assets if they don't have a lawyer to help them, but they can't afford the lawyer. And, obviously there's contingency arrangements and things like that, but that's not always a solution. So.
Yeah, it's definitely not a solution, and especially if it takes a large chunk of the cash that they're already struggling to try and bring in.
Right. So the way that our program helps folks in that situation is to encourage attorneys to find alternate ways of delivering legal services to those folks. And that can take the form of just reduced fee services. So there's one firm, Georgia Family Law Project, that was born out of our incubator. They incubated and hatched and flew the coop.
Nice.
And so they offer sliding scale family law services. So their rate is determined based on your income. You get the same great service no matter what your income level is, but because of their commitment to serving, a population of folks who otherwise can't get legal help, they calibrate their rates to people's income. So that's one way to do it. Another way is some of the flat fee stuff that we were talking about before, where you kind of carve up the litigation and then say, okay, I'm going to just talk to you for 3 hours about what the probate process looks like and what you're going to need to file and the things you're going to have to do. And I'm going to charge you an amount that you can afford for that. And that's going to be really beneficial information to you. And you go forward, but you don't have to pay the tens of thousands of dollars you would in a typical representation.
Yeah, even the flat fee structure, I use the flat fee structure a
Great.
lot in my practice, and especially once I came across it. But that can be difficult for an attorney, because then you have clients who are literally calling you and I actually have some who call me and text me literally all the time. And of course, I want to be client centric with my service, and so I am always trying to get back in touch with them and talk to them and be as patient as I can. But it can bring extremely needy clients, so there might be some sort of way that I probably need to bring into my practice to balance that out.
Right. Well, not every type of representation lends itself to flat fee, right? And so if you've got something where people are going to be burning up your phone, and that's going to be taking a lot of time, and you're thinking, I've already earned my fee for this and this is additional, then, we talk about ways to set some boundaries with clients, and that's some of the best practices work that we do in the program with attorneys to sort of help them navigate those things. And you often learn, sometimes the hard way, that not everything lends itself to flat fees, or payment plans is another common thing that attorneys in our program will do. You can also do subscription services, which if you think about, a lot of businesses, for their Office 365, for their Adobe, for all of the software that you use, it's a monthly fee, right? Or they give you a discount if you buy it for the year. So for an ongoing representation.
Now, aren't there online, I forgot what they're called now. It's like lawyers.com or something like that, where you can actually subscribe to them and, pay a monthly fee, and someone talks to you really rushedly for 5 minutes.
Oh, really? I had not heard about that.
I think there are some. I can't remember what they're called, but there's a couple of, I think, subscription services online.
I mean, I know there's things like LegalZoom, right?
LegalZoom, that's what I'm thinking.
And that's more of a flat fee where and I think they did have sort of a consultation option with lawyers. They've run into some regulation issues with some of those things. So,
Okay.
Yeah. But in terms of helping clients, when I talk to attorneys about why they should think about incorporating some of these things into their practice, lawyers love to hate LegalZoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it exists for a reason, because it's serving this market. And these folks who think, I don't have $10,000 to pay an attorney, but I'll pay $500 to get a will. Well, maybe there's a way for an actual attorney to deliver better service and get that $500. And so that's what we encourage folks to think about. And I think that creates a lot of value for clients as well to know I can get enough help, I can get some help, I can get pointed in the right direction. I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of those calls where it's like, I just need to ask a question. I just need a lawyer to tell me, when is this due? And the clerk can't tell me, and nobody's going to tell, that type of help.
I actually do that a lot for people for ever since I started telling people they could just contact me. I mean, most of what I get are just questions.
Yeah.
It's like, and because I've kind of dedicated my practice to actually helping people and not just trying to make a buck.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of questions like, how do I go about this? And then a lot of what I do is just kind of go on and ask other attorneys, well, how does client A do this and this and this? And so
yeah, and if you think about folks who, some people live in communities where they know lawyers and so they can ask somebody, but there's so many folks in communities where there's no lawyers there. They don't even, who are you going to even know to ask? Maybe you're asking somebody who you trust at your church or, some other professional in your community, but it's such an advantage to have, just an attorney you can call just to ask the one question.
Yeah. So how do clients connect with an attorney at Lawyers for Equal Justice then?
So we have an online referral system. They can go to our referral website, which is lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io. I know it's a bit of an odd
Yeah, it is.
ending.
It's not legal.com.
Yeah, but Legal.io is actually the software that is used. It's a referral software, and they are very kindly sponsoring us. And so they provide it to us to be sort of a beta user of it. So it's lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io. They can see the profiles of the attorneys in the program, and then they can go through a brief intake, answer some questions, talk a little bit about the program, and talk a little bit about the problem or the matter they're having, and then they can actually see the profiles of the attorneys who practice in that area. And if they want, they can just go ahead and pick, and they'll be connected immediately. If they don't pick, then behind the scenes, I just kind of match them up based on what the issue is.
You play matchmaker.
I
huh?
do, yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So we're up against another break here. So why don't you tell both attorneys and clients how to get in touch with Lawyers for Equal Justice?
Great. So our website is www.lawyersforequaljustice.org. That's the general program website. And then our referral website, if you're looking for affordable legal help, is lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io.
You're listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and all my old shows are archived on my website, jameslewislegal.com. Once you go there, you'll see almost one day, this is the goal, one day you'll see almost every single legal issue you can think of will be archived on my website. It'll point you in the right direction, show you what you need to know and what type of attorneys you might be looking for. So go to jameslewislegal.com. If you have a topic that you'd like to hear on the show, go ahead and email me at james@jameslewislegal, or you can go ahead and give me a phone call at 404-610-0075. And if I can't help you with your legal issue, I can direct you to an attorney who can help you with your legal issue. And a lot of those attorneys have appeared on my show, so you're already kind of familiar with these guys. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. When we get back, we're going to go back through this process again and talk more about Lawyers for Equal Justice. You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I have yet another awesome, empowering, and informative show for you this week, because this week I have attorney Sarah Babcock on. She's the executive director for the Lawyers for Equal Justice program, and the Lawyers for Equal Justice program is a very special type of program because it has one solution for two problems. And this program not only helps attorneys, but it also helps people seeking equal access to justice. So we've talked a lot about this. Why don't we go back through why don't you describe once again, what is this program, how it got started, and how it helps attorneys?
Sure. So, and I'm glad that you said sort of one solution to two problems, because that's how we talk about the program a lot. Lawyers for Equal Justice is part of a nationwide incubator program that envisioned newer solo attorneys who need support, who need help with the practice of law and understanding how to manage the practice of law and how to do it well and do it in a client-centered, professional, ethical way, and also how to run their practices like a business, and not run into a lot of problems that solo attorneys can have. And the overwhelming need for civil legal services that are affordable for folks who are looking for help with just basic things like, custody and divorce and probate and landlord-tenant issues and consumer issues, debt, bankruptcy, all of those kinds of things.
Okay, so who are the clients that are looking for attorneys that come to Lawyers for Equal Justice? Who are these clients?
So a lot of times they are folks who have called Atlanta Legal Aid or Georgia Legal Services to ask for help and have been told, I'm sorry, you make quote unquote too much money to qualify for our services, or what you're looking for falls outside of our kind of wheelhouse of what we can provide, where we've put our priorities. They also come, we get referrals from judges and from clerks and courts who know about the program and say, if you need an attorney, maybe you can call Lawyers for Equal Justice or submit an online request and get connected with an attorney that way.
Okay, so what are the type of issues that your attorneys help clients with?
So it can be things like if you buy a used car from a car dealership and they're not transferring the title when they need to, or there's a lemon law issue, right? And the car is not functioning the way it's supposed to be. So we have an attorney in our program who does a lot of consumer work, also does a lot of debt defense work. So if, you've got a credit card that's gone into collections and you're getting calls and you're getting harassed and they're going to sue you, an attorney in our program can help with that, right? Also a lot of family law matters. So custody, there's a lot of like grandparents out there who are dealing with custody issues, or domestic violence, and folks who have gotten a temporary protective order and now need a divorce. Attorneys in the program can help with all of those things as well.
Okay. So do you have any dealings with people who are dealing with landlord-tenant issues?
Absolutely. So we see a lot of landlord-tenant issues, and there's a number of attorneys in the program who help with that. Also, foreclosure, sort of anything touching on the landlord-tenant relationship or home ownership, they can assist with.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about how these clients come to you. And once again, talk about how you connect them. I mean, you just go behind the scenes and you kind of just do the magical matchmakers.
Sure. Thing? So on our referral website, which is lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io, someone can go and can look at the profiles of all of the different attorneys who are on the site and kind of see what they practice in, and look a little bit. All of the attorneys have little bios on there, so you can kind of see like, oh, this is somebody who handles cases just like what I'm looking for. Or just sometimes you just feel like you connect with somebody based on their picture or whatever, right?
Based on their picture? I don't know if that's a great way to pick an attorney. But.
Well, probably as good as any other way, right?
Okay.
Referrals are usually the best way. But anyway, so then you can go through the intake process, and based on your description and how you've categorized your issue, then the software will show you these are all of the attorneys who practice in this area. And so you can, pick one if you want, if you've sort of looked at the profiles and think like, oh, okay, this person looks like, somebody who they practice in the areas that are what I need help in. Or if you don't select it, it still creates the request, and then somebody on the back end, usually me, just goes through and matches people up. And honestly, I often do it round robin style. So it's just, whoever got the last referral goes to the bottom and the next person goes up to the top. But I do read the descriptions. And so, I know all of the attorneys who are in the program. I know their areas of interest and their strengths. And so, there was one I was looking at today that was an intersection of family law and immigration law. And so, I went through and found the people who have some specialties in that area and made sure to give the referral to that person. So.
Okay, so now we've talked about clients. How does this help me as an attorney?
Well, you can probably speak to that best, James, since you're in the program, right? And you're an attorney. But I think it helps attorneys in a number of ways. We've talked about the camaraderie and the community, which is really important when you're in a solo practice and otherwise potentially on your own. I think it also provides that support system and the training and getting people thinking about, okay, I know I need to reconcile my trust account and my operating account. And, I know I need to go find a banker who's somebody who I can really trust and who's going to work with me as a business. And, I know I need to figure out what a certificate of service is and how to serve it properly and send it, and all of those sort of practical things that go along with.
And there are a lot of practical mistakes you can make. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I did a probate issue, and I probated in the wrong county. I probated it where the property was and not
Right.
where the person was domiciled. So
Right.
There's a lot to actually pick up on there.
There's pitfalls for the unwary everywhere you go. And so even to have somebody sitting just one desk over from you to be like, hey, I was going to file the probate here. Is that right? And have them be able to say, no.
No, you want to take that to where the person
Right.
was domiciled.
It is a huge value. And I also think, for attorneys, I think that there's a lot to be said for flat fees and limited scope representation in terms of attorney work-life balance. Hourly billing is a nightmare. It's terrible. It's terrible for attorneys because the only way you can make more money is to bill more hours. And then you have a finite number of hours in the day. So then all you can do is raise your rates if you want to make more money. And it sort of pits you against the client because your interest is in spending as much time as possible so you can bill as much as possible. And the client is thinking, I just need to get this thing done and to pay an amount that I can afford and that reflects the value that I feel, the attorney has given to me. So hourly billing is terrible. Frankly.
Yeah, it can catch clients off guard, especially when they get this monstrous bill and they're just a normal person, and it hits them off guard basically.
Absolutely. And so I think that thinking about flat fee billing and alternate ways to deliver legal services can really help attorneys do the parts of their job that they love more. If you really love counseling and advising clients, which is why a lot of us, attorneys love to give advice, then find a practice where, you're basically like doing coaching sessions for clients before they go off to represent themselves in their divorce. It's a perfectly ethical thing to do in Georgia. You can charge a flat fee for it. And so adding just something like that can allow you to have some reliable, steady income, which helps your work-life balance and helps your sanity, and also be doing something that you love. And so, that to me seems like a win-win.
Yeah, especially since this actually starts to solve or at least help and move in the right direction the access to justice problem that we're facing.
Absolutely. We need, people often say there's too many lawyers. There's too many lawyers competing for the same small amount of clients. There are actually not enough lawyers in this country. We need more lawyers representing these folks who are falling into the access to justice chasm, as it were.
Yeah, and I think Georgia, a couple of attorneys from the Georgia Heirs Property Project came on a couple of weeks ago, and they said that there's actually 7 counties in Georgia where there's not a single attorney.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's a lot more where the only attorneys are the judge and the district attorney, so not going to represent you. And in rural Georgia, there's also an issue of baby boomers who are approaching retirement, and there are just not younger lawyers there to fill their spots. And so I think that those 7 counties are going to increase dramatically in the next 10 to 15 years.
That is amazing. So we are almost at the end of our show, but why don't you give them some contact information once again actually, before you do that, why don't you explain about Legal.io again?
Sure. So Legal.io is the name of the software that runs our referral program, and they very generously and very kindly let us use it basically as a beta tester. So we're able to use it, free of charge to our program. And so that website for referrals is lawyersforequaljustice.legal.io. It's a little bit of an odd ending on the internet address, but that's why, because it's Legal.io is the name of the software.
Okay. And give them some contact information for Lawyers for Equal Justice just before we leave.
Sure. So the program itself is located at www.lawyersforequaljustice.org. You can also call us at 404-474-7447.
You're listening to Lewis on the Law. This has been a great show. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Because I think this is a really important program that people need to know about, especially if they're don't qualify for Atlanta Legal Aid or the free programs, and they're just over the line, or if they're an attorney looking to start their own practice and they don't know where to go. So I think this is a very, very important program. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. Next month, I have a month focused on tax law. That's right. It's tax season already, your favorite time of year. So you're listening to Lewis on the Law. You can always get in touch with me at jameslewislegal.com. Email me at james@jameslewislegal, or give me a call at 404-610-0075. I would like to thank my producer, Sam Davis, the siren of sound back there, and the all-seeing eye in the sky, Anthony Cook, our multimedia producer, for bringing this show to you live each week. Thanks, guys. See you next week.